Howard, appreciate your time. Obviously, you've been around this story since it really broke. You broke the story April 19th that the A's would put all their attention on Nevada. You've understood this. Now you're here in Oakland visiting. We really appreciate you, getting it firsthand from all of us. You visited Howard Terminal today, in fact. What are you gathering from this trip, and what are you kind of already seeing your stories looking like?
Well, the thing that I wanted to see, Brody, and I appreciate you having me on, I wanted to see from the Oakland side, from the Bay Area side, what's going on. We've heard the Vegas stuff. We've had some contact with the A's, but I wanted to see what followed the fan base, the reverse boycott, the sell T-shirts, everything's going on. I wanted to talk to fans, and I've gotten to. I spent last night out here at the stadium. I spent pretty much the entire game wandering through the stands, very little in the press box. Talked to a lot of fans. Today I've talked to some of the A's players. I want to talk to some of the players that have played in Vegas. The Vegas ballpark in Summerlin, the AAA ballpark, if you've been there, it's probably one of the best AAA ballparks.
It's brand new almost.
Brand new, it's like 4 years old. Yep. The difference of playing there, and what I found with the players is they kind of cut out the noise.
Yeah.
They're just here to play baseball.
Right.
They don't want to, it's not their decision if the team's going to move to Vegas or stay in Oakland or go to the Howard Terminal or go onto a site on the Las Vegas Strip. They're just here to play, and that's really what I found. And it's been fascinating just being here. Last night especially, it was 4,000, but you could hear everything, and it was great to see the fans get excited.
What's your take on Howard Terminal now that you've been there?
I mean, we saw it from above. We went to the top of the Port Authority offices and looked at it, so you can see the whole layout. It's hard, right? It's not an empty lot. They're using it for storage and stuff, but it's on the waterfront. You've got a view of the San Francisco skyline behind you and the Bay Bridge, and so and it's 55 acres. You're near Jack London Square. You're near downtown. I'm still not sure why. Now, I'm a Vegas guy.
I know. I get it.
I love Vegas. I've been there 40 years. I'm not sure what the attraction was for the Tropicana site. It's a nice site. Look, it's 35 acres, but you're only going to use 9 of it.
Right.
Which I think is too small. We don't know what the Tropicana is going to do, what Bally's is going to do once they tear down the Tropicana. So there's just still a lot of questions about this.
So this process has been going on for a couple years with Las Vegas involved, but the last 4 months, like where it's got obviously intense and the legislative sessions, as you've seen it unfold firsthand, has any of it been orderly or predictable, or has this process already taken some twists and turns that maybe none of us could have seen?
Taken more twists than I've ever thought. I mean, the A's went in I think it was like February or March, when they went in, and all of a sudden we found out they hired
lobbyists.
Every lobbyist in the state was working for the A's.
Right.
And then the bill process was just really, really weird. And one of that it went into a special session, and it looked like it was going to go through. But I think the weirdest part is, and I'm using this as a comparison, because they are two different things, is the Raiders coming to Vegas.
Right.
Say what you want about the Raiders leaving Oakland and coming to Vegas. Mark Davis, however, was very upfront. He was talking about how much you knew where the private financing was going to come from, and the public financing, how that was going to work. Very different from the A's process. So different type of public financing, but they haven't been very public about whether private
side. Well, I want to get into actually both sides since you mentioned that. So let's first start with the public side. So SB1 clears $380 million from Nevada and from Clark County.
Right.
Now, as far as I know, that is said and done pretty much. Is there anything that could contest it, delay it, pause it, or is that's a done deal?
The way the bill is written, Clark County is basically told they have to fund.
They've got to do it
the bond.
with
they
bonds.
have to fund the bonds,
and the state is a different
and it's
way
going to go.
paying.
And it's going to be overseen by the Stadium Authority. But because Major League Baseball has not signed off on the relocation, the bonds haven't been funded yet.
Sure.
So
that makes sense.
That's held up.
But it's held up. But could challenges from teachers groups or education groups
that's the question.
Could that actually pause this or stop this?
It could. because based on the state law, but it wouldn't go on the ballot till next year.
Right, a referendum vote would almost certainly do it, but could it even get to that
Well,
point?
that's the question. We don't know if it's going to
Yeah.
get there. I know a couple of the fans told me last night the Sell T-shirts proceeds are going toward the teachers group to help fund it. The question will be: is there some outside funding coming
to help
push it across,
right.
to get it on the ballot?
Right.
That costs money to get to collect signatures.
So, like the public side, pretty straightforward. We understand it. You're right. The private side, I don't know that we truly understand it. The A's are on the hook for at least $1.1 billion, as they've said from themselves. But cost overruns and things that we can't project. Has much or any of that been explained to
none of that's been explained.
Nevada, or how about Bally's or GLPI?
Well, GLPI is putting in $175 million. They said that up front, that they're going to put $175 million in, and they said on their last quarterly earnings call, much of it's going to come up front to pay
demolition, right?
the demolition work.
Yeah.
Bally's hasn't said anything about what they're going to put in. If they're going to put in any, they're just giving them the 9 acres, and they've been a little wishy-washy on. Is there other acres they're going to give them?
Because 9 has never been done before with a retractable roof stadium in Major League Baseball.
And it's also, here's the other thing that stood out. The day the bill dropped in the legislature back in May
25th.
May 25th.
Or 6th, I think.
We knew the night before. With the Nevada Independent, myself and Tabitha and Jacob Soul, we were up till midnight pre-writing it because we had a copy.
You guys were great in all of that, by the way. Shout outs to you, yeah.
But Tabitha Mueller and I, we were up writing it, getting it going. And then the next morning, we knew the bill dropped. We had it. We had our story ready to go. All of a sudden, the A's dropped these renderings. And it was almost like, no offense to TV media, but TV media, look, pretty pictures, shiny object, here you go, don't pay no attention to all this money stuff.
Well, those renderings are not even worth it anymore, apparently.
Well, that's what I found out. Yeah, now they've said, no, those renderings, they've got a whole new developer. They're saying those are not what it's going to look like, so we don't know.
So those renderings, the 9 acres you mentioned, the 30,000 seat capacity, the promise of almost selling out every game, the trusting of 30% tourists at all your games, like I could go on and on with a lot of the projections and promises. Are Nevadans, and I know you're not going to speak for all of them, are they generally just buying everything that they're hearing right now? Is there some questioning going on?
There's a lot of questioning going on, and it is fascinating. Talking to fans here last night, a lot of them said they'd like to see this stadium redeveloped. They don't want to go to the Howard Terminal. They'd like to see the Coliseum somehow redeveloped. They like coming here. It's a classic. I mean, it's classic.
That's one word for it.
But in Vegas, there is still a lot of skepticism.
Yeah.
The A's are starting to do some stuff a little more public. Yeah. They've given money to the last couple weeks ago. There was a charity softball game with the Raiders and the Knights, and the A's were the sponsor. This weekend, they're sponsoring the AFL-CIO convention in Reno.
Okay.
Because remember, the building trades have already signed deals with them to build the stadium.
That's right.
So yeah, there's some skepticism, but where that's going to end up, I think we're all just sitting here waiting to see what Major League Baseball
is going to vote on.
When they're going to vote on.
Yeah.
That's where it'll kick everything off.
I mean, you're more of a gaming guy. That's kind of been your background and specialty and realm for all these years.
I'm an old sports writer. I did cover sports years ago.
You know it well. There's no confusing that. But in terms of Bally's and GLPI, a couple things here. The A's are not developers by nature. They're a baseball team.
Yeah.
Do Bally's and GLPI have enough expertise in this type of project to do what they're all about to do?
GLPI definitely. This is a company that was the first gaming REIT, a real estate investment trust. They just own all the land and lease it out to casino operators. They actually were born out of Penn Entertainment, which is a casino company out of Pennsylvania. GLPI has that expertise.
Okay.
Bally's is very new.
Right.
It was started out as Twin River, small casino company out of Rhode Island. They've expanded and grown. Their chairman, Sue Kim, has been very active.
I've seen his interviews,
Now they are building a $1.7 billion casino in downtown Chicago. Yeah. That has got their attention. They're going to open the temporary casino, I think in September is what they're saying.
You're saying that's their priority right now?
That is their priority right now. If the A's come through, and that is going to be the site, the shovel in the ground, everything, they'll tear down the Tropicana and worry about the Tropicana later down the road.
And so the Tropicana site, I mean, we've seen those renderings, which, again, don't mean anything, but it was minus any further development that Bally's is definitely going to do on their 26 remaining acres. What do you think their development is going to look like? I know you were on their conference call. I know they don't have plans yet.
They have no plans. There was some rendering that came out that showed like 2 towers on one side, each side of the stadium. That's not what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be something. Remember, Tropicana is only 1,500 rooms.
Right.
It's tall, and it's an old building.
Right.
2 old towers, but it's only going to be 1,500. They probably do like 1,000, 1,500 rooms, some type of boutique.
But somewhat not high rise, but something significant, right?
But the key factor is this: the FAA is going to have to sign off on whatever is built there.
Right.
The Tropicana has long been signed off on the 2 towers.
Right, because they pre-existed heavy airline traffic.
Right, and they've been doing, so that's been signed off on. The question is going to be the stadium, and the FAA has seen any plans. Now there's been talk, they've already been, obviously some folks have been reaching out to the FAA, but the FAA is going to want to see the actual plans and what it looks like. They're more worried about the lighting. Right. As you fly in and you get some big thing shining off the scoreboard or whatever, distracting pilots. That's what they're worried about. Do
you know you're talking to a pilot right now?
Okay, there you go.
Didn't want to flex.
That's okay.
No, I know. Okay. You're absolutely right. I mean, you're 100% right.
And that's a big question that we have in Vegas. You know that.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier Tropicana site itself. I mean, again, with all the limitations, that's one thing. How about the fact that the Rio site was out there? Locals, I'm not going to speak for them, and I know you won't speak for all of them, but you're from there, you represent there. It seems like locals would have preferred that site be this option.
The Rio was the site that was preferred. Honestly, the most preferential site was the festival grounds on the corner of Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard. The problem was the owner, Phil Ruffin.
The Circus basically right north of there, right?
Right north of Circus. Yeah. The owner, Phil Ruffin, who owns Circus, owns Treasure Island. He just he kept on moving the goalposts on any deal with the A's. That would have been the site that I think everybody would have preferred.
Is that because of location or space?
Near downtown. Yeah. I think you would have seen the casino owners. I have this on background sources, but they said they would have backstopped the bonds. Yeah. So it wouldn't have been the public. Right. Because who are going to benefit the most? The owner of the Sahara, who also owns the Arizona Coyotes, the owner of the Stratosphere, the owner of Resorts World, they were going to benefit from this, and they wanted to see it down there.
It all seems like the Tropicana site is happening because it came free.
Well, it came free, and also MGM Resorts has 13,000 hotel rooms that surround that site, and they're not paying a nickel for it.
But they will benefit from that.
But they will benefit from it. There was also, so that's, the other site on Tropicana Boulevard, the Wild West site, those 50 acres, seemed to be a great site. There was a lot of talk. For locals where I live out in Summerlin, it's easy to get to.
You don't have to go to the strip at all, right?
Straight shot.
Maybe the immediate neighborhood was in question about it. It needed some build out, so to speak.
But that's a lot of things.
So you're saying that even that remains a more priority option versus Tropicana? Or
no, it's tied to the Tropicana now.
Right. No, I get that, but I'm saying in terms of what people down there would have wanted.
Most people, I think, would have liked it in either on the, it could have been any of those other sites. I think Tropicana, people are worried about trying to get to the site, trying to get there. It's going to be that's going to be a challenge for everybody. But, you're talking 2028, the Tropicana interchange right now, that is really congested because that's right where Allegiant Stadium is. Right. The A's really wanted to be they said, kind of in the stadium district. Well, the Tropicana site, the original, the site, the Wild Wild West site, that was in the stadium district in a sense because it's very close to T-Mobile and just a mile from Allegiant. Now you've got on Tropicana where the hotel is, pretty much across the street from T-Mobile, down the street from Allegiant. So you kind of got the stadium district that you want. Yeah. Question is, will this all happen? I mean, there's a lot of time. A lot of time will tell. Is all I got to say.
I've got 3 more things, and I'm only going to take 3 more of your minutes.
No worries.
You're busy here on your trip to Oakland.
I love it. I'm having a good time.
First thing is this: the Strip. I'm a father of a 6-year-old.
Right.
I don't know that in all my experiences to the Strip. No offense, I don't know that is the place for him. Has there been any conversation about how to obviously keep ticket prices friendly for families, but how to make an MLB experience family friendly? Like it is here, and it is at most ballparks. I question that part of it and how they would address that.
You know what? A lot of the strip hotels are family oriented in some sense. You see, the big pool areas, and, and it's all families out there at the pools. A lot of these strip hotels are not marketing to families, but families are welcome.
Okay.
We went through this back 20 years ago with trying to be family friendly.
Right.
And
this isn't new. I'm not bringing up anything new.
I think this will be. I think it would fit in to Vegas is what Vegas has become.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to be a question at all.
What's the appetite right now in Las Vegas? And I know you and I talked back in April or May, I don't know when that was, and you kind of said, well, I don't know yet because it hasn't been real. And the Golden Knights were in their playoff run, a lot was happening. So now that it's been established down there, what's the appetite for a couple things? Baseball in general, an expansion team over the A's, or flat out they want the A's? Where are you seeing that mix?
It's kind of all over the place, to be honest. I mean, I think there's a group of fans that really just they saw what the Knights did.
Right.
They want an expansion team.
Right.
They don't want, a team that they see where the A's are in the standings.
Yeah.
It's hard because I just spent a half hour in the clubhouse talking to 5 players who all played in Vegas for the AAA team, for the Aviators.
Right.
Love Vegas.
Right.
They're tuning it out. They just want to play baseball, and they're here, and they like being in a major league team. And they understand it, and they understand it's a business. So but I think in the fans, nobody really knows. We want to see what happens with Major League Baseball, and I think people are just wondering what's it going to cost us. That's what everybody thinks.
Last thing for you here, and you mentioned the fan movements and the protests and the reverse boycott and the T-shirts and the chants and everything that's happening here in Oakland and across the country, honestly, and probably is going to continue for the rest of the season. I don't think any of that, and I won't speak for them, I don't think that's aimed at Las Vegas. I think it's aimed at the A's and at Major League Baseball, but is Las Vegas seeing that, hearing that, paying attention to that?
Oh, absolutely hearing it. I mean, you can't miss it. If you watch ESPN, you can't miss it. You can't miss it on sports.
It's being documented.
Yeah, it's been well documented. People in the fans hear it, and they know it. They know it's not directed at Vegas.
Yeah.
It's directed at the ownership of the team, and that's what concerns them. And what's interesting is the fan base are putting up signs saying, "Be warned, Vegas," about the ownership. I've had little contact with the ownership. I wish I've had more. I've met Mr. Fisher briefly up in Carson City I've talked to Dave Cavill on the phone and met him briefly in Carson City. So I wish they'd be a little more. Now they're saying they're not going until Major League Baseball approves the relocation. That's when they're going to be more upfront.
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Okay. Well, Howard, it's cool to meet you in person. We've talked before. I follow your coverage before. I highly recommend everybody watching follow your work because it's been usually the first and the most accurate and the best. And honestly, I wouldn't say that unless I meant it. But thanks for making the trip out here. It means a lot to us. I wish you didn't have to be here. I wish this weren't a story.
I actually wanted to see
But I appreciate you doing this.
Brody, I wanted to see a game in the Coliseum. I've been in Pac Bell. I've been in Pac Bell
Oracle, but you know what? You're an original because that's what it used to be called at the start.
But I love the Bay Area, and I wanted to. I'm from Southern California. Don't take that against me, but I love the Bay Area, and I wanted to see a game here, and it's been kind of fun. So it's been a really good experience seeing all the fan base up here and see what's going on.
Well, thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me on.